And welcome back, everyone, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm here joined by my guest. At this time, I'd like my guest to please introduce yourself. There's the headphones right there, too.
Hi, I'm Jaclyn Passaro.
Awesome. So, for those of you who are listening to the show, I've interviewed Jaclyn before at Cerritos College. It's interesting because I discovered her by watching an app, and I was amazed by all the different ways she was able to promote herself, and she's very savvy on branding, getting your name out there. So at this time, I like Jaclyn to share her story.
I'm still using Busker. Busker is an app similar to, what is it called? I can't remember.
Like Periscope?
Periscope, yes. It's very similar to Periscope, only it's smaller, it's not as popular, and the people on there seem to be nicer. And if people want, they could tip you. So I still go on there sometimes, but I've been focusing a lot on Twitter, on like writing really good tweets in a specific voice. And then Instagram too, and then I wrote a character up, so I'll be posting Instagram videos as this character.
And so, everybody must be curious, like, how did you go from, going to school to, obviously the standard how I do the format of my shows in the past is, tell me about, public school. What was it like? Were you right away cracking jokes since then, or what was your early years like?
I did go to public school. I don't think when I was little, I was always into writing and being pretty weird. And when I was probably around 10 or so, I wanted to go into acting, and I did like acting lessons and some stuff like that. But honestly, I never had like the same passion for acting as I do for stand-up, because in a way it is definitely acting. Like most comedians are characters on stage. I know I'm definitely a character on stage. So it does incorporate some acting, but it also incorporates the writing, which I've always really enjoyed writing. So it has a lot of the stuff that I really like and always liked as a kid.
So, tell me, right after high school, did you know right away what was next?
When I graduated high school, I wanted to be a news anchor, so I went to ASU. I didn't get into their the Cronkite school. I just got into regular ASU, and I, did classes. I didn't really like college, and I remember in my media class. However, college definitely. Without college, I wouldn't be able to write the jokes that I write, because college taught me to be really analytical and criticize things.
Tell me about college. What was it like?
ASU was a lot of fun. I was on their radio station for a little bit my freshman year. I did the news updates, and I had major issues with pronouncing people's names correctly. So like politicians and people in the news that were famous, I'd always mess up their names. And it was embarrassing, but I always got nervous for some reason. I don't know.
And tell me, what did it for you that you finally, realized, oh, I'm totally going to go into comedy?
Well, I tried improv, and people that I worked with would tell me that I'm funny, because most of the time I would be making fun of someone else and like imitating them, or so that's kind of where. But I also tried improv, which is another form of comedy, and I liked getting the laughs. Like improv really isn't necessarily about being funny and getting laughs. It's about building relationships with people on stage. But I got like really excited whenever I would get a laugh.
Tell me about the toughest day that you've been on stage. What was the toughest day like?
It's tough lots of times. for example, I performed in Vegas about 2 weeks ago at the Hard Rock Cafe. And Vegas crowds can be a bit rough because they're older people, and older people sometimes don't get my jokes. And I think that sometimes their perception of comedy is quite different than what I do, which, you know, I'm a solid joke teller, but I also don't self-deprecate on stage. So I think that maybe their perception of what stand-up is somebody going on stage and, like, hating on themselves. And I don't do that.
Oh, cool. So, you know, so much has happened since the last time we had our interview. Tell me all about, you know, the different performances and stuff that you've been up to since then.
Well, ever since then, I started to run a different show. It's at the Photo Film Stage, which is in Glendale. This is like my 5th one. It's usually twice a month, the first Thursday and then the last Thursday of the month. And it's a free show. There's free beverages available as well. Sometimes I have music, and last time I had music and cake. And there's improv, there's always like a headliner, like a national touring headliner, and then like up and coming comics, and sometimes there's characters and improv as well. It's a small space. I performed this past Saturday on a really cool show called Freak Show. It's a really popular show in LA. It's really garnered a pretty big following, and it's a variety show, so they have people that like have fire coming out of their mouth, and characters and all sorts of drag queens, all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh, cool. Now, for our audience that isn't familiar, you know, you've had like so many different interviews and stuff that you conducted. You went from interviewer to entertainer, and you know, what was the transition like?
I have interviewed people before. I used to do interviews with Hollywood Junket. They're an online entertainment like website. And so I did interview some people, like Sharknado was probably the coolest one that I did. I got to meet Mr. Belding, and it was really cool because I didn't understand who he was at first, and then when he opened his mouth and started talking, I recognized the voice, and he saw me like go like realize who he was, because I wasn't talking to him at the time. He was standing next to me, and then he got so excited that like I recognized who he was, because I was like, you know, you played a big part in a lot of people's childhood. Saved by the Bell, lots of people grew up watching it, so that was exciting to go to that premiere, and I watched the movie too.
Now, tell us of the different ways that, you know, you've been able to get your name out there.
I try to market myself a lot on Twitter. I try to come up with tweets, again, that's in a specific voice, because then the brand makes sense and I will attract people who want to hear my humor. And the same thing with Instagram. I just wrote up a character and I'll be shooting it like in a week or so. Her name is called Shrink Susie, and she gives everyone really bad dating advice, but it's also dark. There's a lot of dark jokes in there, which is a lot of what I do is dark jokes.
Tell me about your role as a producer.
It's very hard coordinating shows because in LA, you know, at any given moment you can go to a comedy club and see an A-list comic. So it's very, very hard to get an audience to these shows, and that's why I'm starting to incorporate other forms of entertainment, because I've done it so many times with comedy that it really is a hit or a miss, and it stinks when there's no audience. So it's hard producing stuff.
Do you have a favorite performance you've done so far?
I had fun at the Tempe Improv when I performed, because I felt like they were a genuine stand-up comedy audience. They were there to have a lot of fun, and I did have fun performing for them. I also really enjoy performing at the Ice House in Pasadena, because again, I feel like they're there to have fun, and they're not there to necessarily judge you. I think sometimes the LA audiences really take what you're saying seriously.
And so, what's next for you? Do you have anything coming up right now, or?
This Saturday I will be performing for veterans. That's gonna be fun. It's gonna be at a theater, the Thayer Theater. So I'll be doing that, and the next week is my show that I produce, and I'm gonna be producing more character content for like YouTube and Instagram, and I'm gonna start off with Shrink Susie.
Who have been some of your inspirations?
I definitely am inspired by Anthony Jeselnik, and I would say Natasha Leggero as well.
When was the first time, how long ago, just to give our audience an idea of when you started comedy? Do you remember what year you started doing comedy?
2015.
2015. And so for someone that wants to start off entering comedy, what's the first steps you have to do?
Open mics. Everyone goes to open mics. It's like where you meet people who can also usually there's people at mics that run shows, like bar shows, so you'll get some stage time doing bar shows. And bar shows are terrifying in the beginning because you're gonna bomb. Like, you monologue a lot in the beginning, so you just go up there with jokes and you don't know how to connect with people. And I still have problems sometimes connecting with an audience. Like, once you become really pro, those people can do it so easily. Like, I still have problems with bars and with crowd work. I'm not good at crowd work because I'm a joke teller.
And what was the best advice you received when you first started?
I would say the best advice would have to be really just joke structure. Just getting information about joke structure because it's really important.
Cool. And what would you say is the benefits of improv?
The benefits of improv is that it's good for stand-up is that you can think on your feet and you can do crowd work with it. It helps. I've noticed that people who have a background in improv and do stand-up are really good with crowd work, and they're really good at getting the audience like into them.
And did you ever have any type of favorite TV shows? Like, did you ever watch Mad TV?
I have seen Mad TV. I liked Bon Qui Qui, and I liked the Can I Have Your Number one. That was funny.
And have you been following any particular comedians lately?
Yeah, I always follow like Anthony Jeselnik. I like Moshe Kasher. I like his wife, Natasha.
What's the goal? Where do you see yourself in the future?
Well, I want to start touring soon. So and there's different ways to go about touring. Like, the best way financially is to find a headliner that you work well with to open for. But you could also create your own tours. Comics have done that too, where they just find different like venues and states and create their own tours. That might be something I possibly could do if I start to get more like of a following and use sites like Reddit and stuff to see if I can get like an underground following.
If you had the possibility of the opportunity to like be in like a TV show or movie, you know how they offer what's that show called? Last Comic Standing. That was a pretty cool show. If you had an opportunity to partake in any of those type of things, so let's say you were to like land like make your own show, like do you have any ideas what would you create?
Yeah, I think that would be tons of fun to do one of those shows. I'd probably just create my onstage character, like just that be my onstage character.
Awesome. And so, wow, you've had a chance to perform in so many different venues, and what is it like to try to get yourself booked? Like, what are the steps to get booked in a comedy club?
There's different ways to go about it. Sometimes you get referred, like you'll get a friend that will say, hey, I can get you a spot, but they'll send your video in. That's another way. So a different way is find out who the booker is and then send them a message and then send them a video. And if they like you, they'll give you a spot. Or you can like trade spots with people as well.
Tell us about the different venues you performed at.
I would say that the Ice House is one of my favorite places to perform. I really like the stage at the Hard Rock Cafe in Vegas. I performed at this other place in Vegas. It's a bar, but in the back it has a stage, and I can't remember what it's called, but it was definitely a nice audience. That it was for a charity event for the Vegas, what happened in Vegas, the Vegas shootings, and it was a nice venue. I liked it a lot because it had a stage.
Yeah, definitely. Fundraisers and stuff like that for a cause. Like, tell us about the different things that you performed at for causes and stuff.
I did that one. That was for the Vegas. That was the Vegas shootings, and then there's the one that I'm doing this weekend is for vets, to raise money for vets.
Nice. Any ideas as to next year? How far in advance are you booked? If people are listening right now and want to book you, do you know what's your schedule like so far? How far in advance are you booked currently?
So far I'm just booked for some November dates and some December, nothing in January.
Contact info, how can people reach you?
You can send me an email. It's jaclynpassaro@gmail, or you can feel free to tweet at me. It's the same thing, Jaclyn Passaro.
Excellent. Once again, spell it.
So my Twitter is at JACLYN and then PASSARO.
Yes, and I totally forgot about the whole time change too. What is it? Is it gets darker or
It gets
lighter?
darker faster.
Yeah, wow, that's really something. Oh man. Well, folks, we have about 2 minutes left, but we totally. If you have time to crack some jokes.
I'll tell you. Okay, I'll do a couple of jokes. I'll do some new stuff. So I hope you guys had a great week because I've been crying a lot. I'm trying to lose water weight. I recently got dumped, right? And that is so annoying because I usually fight with guys a lot, and I don't think that they can handle it well. So I always tell them, you know what, I think you should go to Target and go to aisle 10 because I know the perfect girl is waiting there for you. Her name is Barbie. My parents used to buy me her, and unfortunately they never got me the one I wanted. Serial killer Barbie. I know. She was too expensive. All the body parts were sold separately. So there's 2 jokes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the show goes by so fast, but I always like to ask my guests this question as kind of like the ending. What would you like your legacy to be?
Oh gosh. I would like people to remember me as someone who was really bold and changed the way I would like to be remembered as, somebody who made lots of people laugh for reasons they should not laugh, with topics they should not be laughing at.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up this edition, the first edition of the Golden Spotlight. At this time, I'd like to thank my guests for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.
And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time.